serious financial management problems at the Pentagon, to which Mr. Cooper alluded. Fiscal year 1999, 2.3 trillion missing. Fiscal year 2000, 1.1 trillion missing. And DOD is the number one reason why the government can't balance its checkbook. The Pentagon has claimed year after year that the reason it can't account for the money is because its computers don't communicate with each other. My second question, Mr. Secretary, is who has the contracts today to make those systems communicate with each other? How long have they had those contracts? And how much have the taxpayers paid for them? Finally, Mr. Secretary, after the last hearing, I thought that my office was promised a written response to my question regarding the 4 war games on September 11th. I have not yet received that response, but would like for you to respond to the questions that I've put to you today, and then I do expect the written response to my previous question, hopefully by the end of the week.
Thank you, Representative. First, the answer to your first question is no, absolutely not. The policy of the United States government is clear, unambiguous, and opposed to the activities that you described. The second question.
Well, how do you explain the fact that DynCorp and its successor companies have received and continue to receive government contracts?
I would have to go and find the facts, but there are laws and rules and regulations with respect to government contracts, and there are times that corporations do things they should not do, in which case they tend to be suspended for some period. There are times then that under the laws and the rules and regulations passed by the Congress and implemented by the executive branch, that corporations can get off of out of the penalty box, if you will, and be permitted to engage in contracts with the government. They're not generally not barred in perpetuity.
This company was never in the penalty box. If you could proceed to my second question, please.
The second question, I've forgotten what the second question was.
I think Ms. Jonas knows it.
Okay.
And the final missing piece in this puzzle is the fact that one of the offices hit on that day in the Pentagon was the Budget Analyst Office, where budget analysts were working on the question of the missing trillions.
September 11th of 2001 was a very clear, bright, beautiful day. And I had just come back from the Pentagon barber shop, walked by my office and glanced up on the television screen, and there was one of the Twin Towers burning. We never heard the plane come in, at least I didn't. Suddenly the whole world turned upside down. I saw that fireball, and I gotta tell you, I saw that and I said to myself, I'm going to die today. That plane had come directly under our section of the offices. The Army Budget Office, where 38 Army employees were killed, was directly beneath us, and the Navy's new command center was 2 floors beneath us. Everybody was killed in those 2 sections.
Again, the significance of this missing 2.3 trillion and further trillions that have gone missing since 9/11 is an urgent and vital issue that needs to be addressed, but will never be addressed in the controlled corporate media or by the controlled representatives on the Hill these days. And again, just to put that number into perspective, $2.3 trillion is about $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. This is not a trivial amount of money. But yet another 9/11 money trail leads through, of all places, the Federal Reserve. This comes from a March 2007 article from the Muckraker Report entitled "Former Fed Analyst Questions M1 Currency Component Spike Prior to 9/11." Quote, William Bergman worked at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago from July 1990 until early 2004. He served as an economist for 8 years and then moved to a senior analyst position in a new department researching financial market and payment system risk policy issues. In late 2003, he was asked to consider an assignment in the money laundering area. Bergman accepted the assignment, underwent a background check, received credentials affording access to confidential banking information, and began working in the area. He was told that he was part of the fight against terrorism and that he had been asking good questions. One aspect of the assignment of the money laundering area was for Bergman to develop a paper that, if accepted, could serve as a reference source for the Federal Reserve System. Bergman had noted that the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve had issued supervisory letters to the 12 reserve banks in the weeks after September 11, 2001, urging scrutiny of suspicious activity reports in tracking terrorism activity and financing. However, Bergman also noticed that the Board of Governors had issued a similar letter, albeit one that did not refer explicitly to terrorism, on August 2, 2001. According to Bergman, terrorism and terrorist financing were known to be part of suspicious activity, however, and the August 2, 2001 supervisory letter clearly called for scrutiny of suspicious activity, which implies and includes the tracking of terrorism activity and financing. A supervisor gave him the green light and directed him to find the answer regarding the August 2, 2001 supervisory letter. Bergman decided that the best method to discover the answer was to contact the staff of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve directly. In December 2003, he called the board and inquired about the meaning and motivation behind the August 2, 2001 letter. Within 2 weeks, his assignment was abruptly terminated and his credentials cancelled. Bergman explains, "At the time I was also looking into and asking questions about currency flows. I thought these questions were worth pursuing and was planning to raise them when I made the above-noted phone call to the Board of Governors. The currency component of M1, Federal Reserve notes circulating outside of banks, rose especially rapidly in July and August 2001. In fact, up to and including August 2001, that month, August 2001, was one of the 3 fastest-growing months for the currency component of N1 since 1947, on a seasonally adjusted basis, even on the heels of significantly above-average growth in July 2001. Much of the July-August surge, over $5 billion above average, seems to have been in the $100 denomination. Among other explanations, persons aware of any imminent terrorist attacks and concerned about possible arrest seizures, such as those that arose after the 1979 Iranian hostage crisis and the 1998 embassy bombings, could have been trying to liquidate their bank accounts in July and August 2001. The money trail could provide important clues about people aware of, if not responsible for, the attacks. I looked at some internal data bearing on this issue that was available to anyone within the Federal Reserve's internal computer network. After going back to look at this important data again a week or 2 later, it was no longer freely available, but password protected. Approximately 1 month after his money laundering work was terminated for what was described at the time as an egregious breach of protocol attributed to his contacting the staff of the Board of Governors, Bergman's department was absorbed into another department, and his 14-year employment with the Federal Reserve ended. Bergman was told that the elimination of his position at the Federal Reserve had nothing to do with him personally, that it was an organizational matter. He was offered and accepted a severance package and left the Chicago Federal Reserve Bank in March 2004. And what about the August 2, 2001 supervisory letter? What prompted it? Sadly, Americans are once again left with trying to determine for themselves, because nobody entrusted to uphold the rule of law free from passion or prejudice is willing to launch a thorough and purposeful criminal investigation, who knew what and when. Prior knowledge of 9/11 without action and or effort to prevent the events from unfolding is at minimum criminally negligent homicide, a felony. For many within the U.S. government and foreign intelligence community, as well as the banking cartel, for the entire wide-ranging set of unindicted co-conspirators, justice waits, but must prevail. End quote. Again, that's a very important article from the Muckraker Report, and I suggest my listeners go check it out by going to CorbettReport.com